Now, this is going to be our final project of the course, and then we're going to be building a weather application that fetches data from an external API. And in this project will just demonstrate your understanding in modern JavaScript development concepts, including document object manipulation and then event handling as well, and then using fetch API for network requests and handling JSON data. We'll also use Bootstrap 5 for styling as well. So now what we're going to be, this application is going to do for us, it will allow users to enter a city name and get the current weather, and then display the weather information like the temperature, the humidity, and the description as well. And then we're going to use an external API to fetch the weather data. All right, so before we can set up our application, so I've already created a folder in my project structure called weather app. And but before we continue, we must actually go and grab an API in this website. You go to openweather.org or openweathermap.org, and then you just click on pricing. And then on pricing, we actually want to go with a free. Okay, so once you've signed in, they're gonna ask you the company. Then you can just write the company name there, and then you can choose the purpose, and then we can go ahead and hit save. And then we're gonna go to so I need to actually go to my mail and confirm. We've confirmed my mail, and then we're gonna go API keys, and then you can actually see that you've got a key. You can just give this my weather API, and then you can go ahead and generate. All right, so we can see now that we have a API key that we're actually gonna use. All right, so I'm just gonna minimize this and then go back to our project structure. All right, now the first thing that we need to do is to initialize our project. So I'm gonna open a new terminal. And I'm gonna initialize my project npm initialize. All right, the second thing is to install then we need to install some dependencies like Babel and others, and so npm, and then we also need to actually install webpack. What I want to do here is to just to minimize. Let's go ahead and close this. CLI. It's not found there. All right, seems to be going now. I don't know what was the problem. So you must just make sure that you double check everything. So now let's go ahead and install Bootstrap. Okay, and then we make a new file called a babel.babelrc. So we just will say new item, and then dot babel RC. Right, and then we actually open that file. Then we're also going to create another file called webpack.config.js. Let me just move this down a little bit. So last time in our previous project, we actually forgot to put the mode. So this time we must actually put the mode develop. So this can also be production, depending if you So now here, this line actually brings in the Node.js built-in path module, which can help us to work with the file and the directory path in a consistent way across different operating systems. And then this module exports it's it exports a configuration object that tells Webpack what to do. All right, so the mode development, it sets a Webpack to development mode, which includes helpful features like source map for debugging. And then in a production environment, you'll use production mode for optimized mode. All right, and then we need to declare the entry, which will be the starting point of our JavaScript code. So Webpack will begin bundling from this file, which is it's gonna be src index. All right, we might wanna create a file. So here we'll have entry, which is src/index.js. Or you can call it app.js. Let's just call it app.js. Now the output the output actually tells where to put the bungled code, and then the file name, which is bungled.js, that's the name of the bungled file. And the path resolve, this directory, it's where the bungled file will be saved, and then the directory name represents the current directory, and the dist is a common folder for storing the final product. And then the module with the rules, it defines how Webpack should process different types of files. So the first line here, this rule targets JavaScript files ending with .js. All right, and then exclude node modules. We exclude the node modules folder because those files are already pre-processed and they shouldn't be modified. And then the use loader, bubble loader, tells Webpack to use a bubble to transform our JavaScript code. So this is important because it allows us to use modern JavaScript features that might not be supported in older browsers. All right. Now the next thing is to actually create. All right. So we're gonna make directory src, and then in that directory we're gonna add a file called app.js. All right, now if we look there, then we've got a folder called src. It didn't create a file. All right, so we will just right click and make a file called app.js. It's not really a big issue. Index.html. Rather, let's use so we add new item called index.html, and then now let's go to our index.html, which is here. and then we can quickly build our HTML. All right, so the first thing is, of course, put the title, and then we need to go and grasp Bootstrap. Get Bootstrap. Sorry, I'm in the wrong. Get a Bootstrap, and of course you will have to copy this in here. So the first thing that we need a container, a division with a container of with a margin top of 5. And then we're going to have h1 with a class text center. And then we're going to have the form with the ID of weather form. You can actually put a class, and then we're going to have the input group. So here we actually need an input that's going to enter, where we can enter a city. So we'll have input, it is type of text, and then with the ID of city input, and then with a class of form control. And then we can have maybe a placeholder, enter city, and then we need a button. It's a type of submit with a class of btn and btn primary. And then we need to put the results where we're actually going to display the weather. So maybe we can have the division with the ID of weather result with a class of empty All right, and then of course we need to load our bundled script. Now if we look at this, we should have a simple form whereby we just enter the city and then we grab the weather for that city. Now the first thing that we need to do is to select the HTML elements. So we've got about 3 that we actually need to select. First is the weather form. Is document dot query selector, which is gonna be a weather form. And then the next one is the input. The last one is the where we're gonna actually put our results. Now we select the HTML elements with the ID weather form and assign it to the weather form variable. So this is actually this the form element where the user will input a city name, and then we select the HTML element with the ID of city input and assign it to a variable or city input variable. So that's the input field where the user is going to enter the city name, and then and then finally we select the HTML element with the ID weather result and assign it to the variable weather result. So this is where the weather information will be displayed. What we need to do is to add an event listener on weather, or rather we can actually say yeah, weather form dot add event listener, and then we listen for a submit. And the first thing is to of course prevent default. So prevent default prevents the default form submission. So first we can create a variable, let's call it city dot value, and then we actually want dot trim. So we actually get the value that is entered in the city input field, and then we trim any leading or trailing white spaces. All right, and then we have assigned it to a variable called city, and then if city, so we need to check if the city is empty, if it has a value or not. So we can say if city, and then we actually need to create a variable for that will store our API key. I'm just gonna call it API key, and then we can go ahead and store the API key. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go back to not here to here, and then I'm gonna just copy my API key. Just want to copy my API key, and let's go ahead and store it somewhere here, and then we'll have the URL. All right, so let me just explain what we're actually doing here. This variable API key, it will actually put the actual key or API key of the weather, and then the URL, construct the URL for the open weather map API request, including the city name, API key, and the units as well. And then now when it comes to making the API request, try it handles potential errors. All right, and then response, this constants with response await fetch URL, it uses the fetch API to make a get request to the open weather API, and then the await keyword ensures that the function awaits for a response before proceeding, and then if not response dot okay throw new error city not found, it checks if the response status is not okay. All right, so if it's not, then an error is thrown with the message city not found. All right, and then now we actually need to parse and display the weather. So we actually parsing the response body as a JSON, and we assign it to a resulting object of data variable. All right. Humidity. All right, so this must be in percent, and then the last thing is the description or conditions, and here we can just say delta dot weather. So we created template string containing created a template string containing HTML markup. So the template includes dynamic data that is interpolated using the dollar and braces. So the first one here, we fetch the city name and the country, and then here we display the temperature in Celsius, and then here we display the humidity, in percentage, and then we display the weather conditions description. And then here we just printing this. We set the inner HTML of the weather result elements of the HTML string, displaying the weather information on the page. And then if maybe there's a, remember it's a try, we need to actually catch the error. Catch error. Alert, alert, danger. And then we need to actually display the actual error. So we say error dot message. Now we're just handling the errors, any errors that may occur in the try block. So if an error occurs and it is caught, the error message is displayed in the same weather results element. I'm gonna get the terminal, and we will just npm run build. Oh no, we haven't really so what we need to do, we must just open package.json, and then just make sure here that we put the build script. We can just say build. All right, so oh no, I said npm run. I didn't say npm run build. I was like, what's happening? Why is it build? Oh, oh my word, guys, there is a problem. I see the problem now. It was just the quotations. All right, let's go back and see if we can run this on a terminal. Just realize something that we must actually fix. So first, the ID, actually I wrote it wrong here. You can actually check that. And then just want to make sure that city input, all the IDs are actually correct. And then the weather form. Okay, so the rest of the things seems fine. So I'm gonna just quickly rebuild. Let me just delete other terminals. I can actually run this one. All right, so let's test this, and the Bloemfontein, get weather error. So it's giving me a 400. Okay, let me just test something, or let's just say London. Okay, and so we're gonna listen for XHR. Let's just say London. Okay. So the problem might be, let me just see. I just want to check something. and we'll actually fix that problem. I just want to see if I don't return the country, so I just want to do this. And then here we'll just select the city. So I think I made a mistake here, so it's supposed to be, so I select the city, like this, and then of course this must be backtick and backtick. And then this here we can just put the API key. API key. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna just build again. I'm gonna quickly rebuild. All right, so let's test it. And let's put London. And yes, I'm getting 200. So there is so let's do Bloemfontein. I think we were supposed, but okay, it peaks that Bloemfontein is in South Africa. ZA is South Africa. And we can see the temperature. Although the temperature is actually in Fahrenheit, but this is working fine. All right. So now, so in this project, we actually build a weather application that allows users to enter a city name and get the current weather information using the Open Weather API. And all the functionalities encapsulated within the weather form at event listener. And this includes fetching the weather data, handling errors, and updating the document object model with the fetch data. And then this project just demonstrates how to set up modern JavaScript environment and build a complete application using external APIs and DOM manipulation.